Hi my cute little kittens, or should I say whales today, because this video is how to whale on Furina pretty much. We're going to be comparing her constellations from C1 to C6 to her weapon, and we're going to see the correct way to go about it. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so first of all, starting off with her signature weapon, the Splendor of Tranquil Waters. I'm going to review this weapon in details in an upcoming video, so make sure to subscribe. But for this video, we're just going to talk about it very quick for Furina herself. So this weapon is going to be giving you a huge amount of crit damage. That's from the substat. And then from the passive, it's going to be giving you elemental skill damage bonus, which is pretty good because that's like most for damage generally. And then also it's going to be giving you extra HP. That's pretty much her weapon. And then with refinements, you're going to gain more elemental skill damage bonus and more HP percentage. Alright, so this weapon is going to result generally when you get it in R1 in around like a 15% damage increase on average. Well, obviously it depends on what you had before. It can be a little less or more, but generally speaking, it's going to be around like 10-15% damage increase. If you have something like the Faster and Desire, it's probably going to be around like a 10% damage increase. If you have something else, I did a weapons tier list before if you want to check it out. If you have something from B tier, for example, or something like that, it's probably going to be around 15%. But generally speaking, it's going to be around like a 10-15% damage increase. And then with the refinements, I didn't do any calculations, but I'd assume it's going to be around like 4 to 6% damage increase with each refinement. This doesn't really matter though, because in my opinion, this weapon is not really that good on Furina. Or it's good, I mean, it's not like it's bad, but the thing is with this weapon, it doesn't address her energy problems. So you're gonna need to build energy recharge on Furina, especially at like C0 to C3. And generally, you'd want to get it from your weapon, or at least get some from your weapon. This weapon doesn't give you any sort of energy recharge, like at all. It just focuses on increasing your damage. And that's cool, but you're gonna have to build energy recharge on Furina still, which, you know, kind of locks this weapon potential. If it helped you a little bit with energy, it's gonna be perfect, but for right now, it really isn't that, you know, that good. It's not game changing at all, because you can't really get the full potential like focusing on damage without addressing your energy issues, which is a problem. So yeah, that's why this weapon is not really as great, especially as a signature weapon. I mean, it's her best weapon, like I'm saying that, but it's as a signature weapon, it's not really worth it in my opinion. And especially when you compare it to her constellations, which we're gonna see now. So yeah, now let's move on to her constellations. We're gonna explain them one by one, and we're gonna see all of their benefits and why they're so good. Before we do that though, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. You're gonna see more videos and that's gonna help me a lot. So yeah, subscribe to join the kitten army. By the way, we're not gonna be calculating like the damage increases for Furina herself for constellations like we do usually with most characters, because a lot of her constellations are not really damage constellations, so I decided to not even like bother with that at all. Most of her constellations are gonna have like support value or some sort of value that's different from like just raw damage. So yeah, we're just gonna be explaining them and seeing why they're good. Alright, so starting off with your C1, it's pretty much just gonna give you 150 extra like fanfare points after you use your elemental burst, and that's gonna increase your maximum number of points from 300 to 450. So it's pretty much just 150 free points. So all of that doesn't matter. What matters is that this constellation is gonna give you an extra 37.5% damage bonus to your whole team. That's at talent level 10, of course. Your damage bonus is gonna be increased from 75% to 112.5%. So it's an extra 37.5 damage bonus. Well, obviously, if you can't figure this out by yourself, a 37.5 damage increase to your whole team on top of her like other damage increases is just super good. Like imagine every single character on your team have an extra 37.5 damage increase. That's just too good. Now, obviously, how much damage that's going to result in is just going to depend on which character is getting this damage bonus. Because like some characters like damage bonus more and stuff like that. But for every single character pretty much who deals damage, I don't think any of them is going to mind extra damage bonus. Because it's not like extra attack or something like that. It's just pure damage bonus. If they're doing damage, their damage is just going to be increased. That's it. C1 is going to be giving you an extra 37% damage bonus increase, which is huge. Especially for a C1, that's very, very good. So yeah, our first constellation is just extra damage bonus for your team, which is super good. Now moving on to our C2. C2 is going to triple the speed in which you gain the points, which is going to make it very, very easy to reach the maximum 450. You're going to reach it faster, which means more uptime with higher damage bonus to your whole team. And then when you reach it, because it's going to triple the speed, you're going to reach it very fast and you're going to be gaining extra, you know, points above your maximum 450. Obviously, you cannot really use them, but they're not going to be wasted. It's going to give you HP for each point above 450 to a maximum of 140 extra HP, which is crazy. That's like 3 main stats of HP. So C2 is just fast points and then a huge amount of HP, which is huge. It's also pretty good. The main thing is the HP. It's going to allow you to reach your HP requirements like like pretty easily. By the way, I did a video for Furina and like her requirements and artifacts. If you want to check it out for the whole energy recharge, HP and stuff like that. But yeah, C2 is going to allow you to reach your HP requirements pretty much without using any HP main stats or anything like that. So you're going to be able to focus on energy recharge or damage or whatever. I mean, I've said before that usually you'd want to aim for around 40,000 HP on Furina. To be honest, with C2, you can probably go a little more just for, you know, that extra more damage. Because at this point, you have enough HP, you can probably go with a little more, you know, like 50k or somewhere around that. But yeah, the main thing is that it's just going to give you HP and open up more like artifacts and weapons, you know, options. And that's obviously super good because she needs a lot of HP. That's going to be super good. Now, although it is super good, I'm seeing a lot of people honestly like overvalue her C2 a little bit. It's definitely a good constellation. Like it's one of the best constellations in the game, but it's not like game breaking or anything like that. This might be controversial, but it really isn't like, you know, an out of the world constellation or anything like that. Again, it's super good. It's a good constellation. That's for sure. But I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, like, oh, C2, it's her, you know, it's game changing. It's not game changing. It's not going to change anything about Furina. Sure, the HP gain is just more damage and then more healing maybe, but it really doesn't change much about like Furina as a buffer, which is her main role. So it's definitely not necessary. Why I'm saying this is that I feel like a lot of people might be pressured to go C2 because they hear a lot of people being like, oh, C2 is very good, stuff like that. So they think it's necessary to go for it. Yeah, it's super good, probably the best in the game, but it's definitely not necessary for like Furina to do her job. So yeah, if you want to go for it and you can, it's definitely going to improve your Furina and you're going to see a difference. But if you can't, it's not necessary for anything. It's just good. But yeah, overall C2 is definitely a very, very good constellation. Now C3 is just going to increase the level of your elemental burst by 3. From level 10 to 13, it's going to be around a 27% damage increase. If you have like maximum points, which you probably will because you have C2 now, plus the healing increase and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter. It's still a pretty good constellation, but it's kind of like pretty much a worse version of C1. Even though it's a very, very good C3 compared to like the usual C3s on characters, it's just like a level increase, but it's still definitely pretty good. It's going to give you a 27% damage bonus to your team extra on top of the other damage bonuses, which is obviously super good. But yeah, the value is definitely not as high as like C1 to C2, but it's definitely still pretty good, especially for just like a C3 that just increases your level. It's definitely very, very good. Now we have C4, it's that when you use your elemental skill and then you hit opponents with it or you heal with it, whatever, you're going to gain 4 energy and you can do that every 5 seconds. It's going to be giving you around like 12 energy. You probably can do it like 3 times per rotation, which is super, super good. That's like the first constellation or anything that addresses your energy requirements. So it's going to be very, very good. The main thing is that it's going to allow you to go on something else on your artifacts or your weapon. You're not going to need energy recharge as much. You're probably still going to need some energy recharge even at C4, but you can probably manage it just from your substats. So yeah, it's gonna lower your energy requirements. It's gonna give you more energy, which is super good. It's also gonna unlock a lot of weapon options, including her signature weapon. It's gonna be much better at C4 because energy recharge weapons at this point are gonna fall off a little bit. So you're gonna be able to use the more like traditional crit weapons and stuff like that, and they're gonna be much better, which obviously is gonna result in more damage. Again, it's definitely not like necessary. You can probably just manage with an energy recharge sans or weapon, but if you want to get it, it's definitely one of her best constellations too. Even at C4, it's kind of expensive, but it's a good C4. I would say it's worth it if you want to go for C4. Again, not necessary, but if you want to go for it, it's definitely a very good C4. Now we have C5 is just going to increase the level of your elemental skill. It's more damage and more healing. Honestly, I didn't do any calculations, so I don't know by how much, but I would assume it won't be as much. It's probably going to be considerable because that's like her only source of damage, but either way, it's definitely not worth it, especially for C5. If you're not planning to go for C6, I would say definitely not worth it. And now finally we have C6. It's pretty much just going to turn your auto attacks into hydro damage, and it's going to buff them depending on like which state your elemental skill is in. So if you're doing damage, you're going to heal. If you're healing, you're going to be doing extra damage. What this constellation do pretty much is just, it's going to unlock a new playstyle. It's going to allow her to be like an on-field main DPS. That's it. And also be a super good main DPS too, by the way. And also healer at the same time. The thing is, if you don't plan on doing that, then C6 is kind of useless. If you just want to use Furina as a support, which is like her main role, you don't need C6. You might be able to fit her in as like a second DPS or something like that, maybe. But generally speaking, it's just going to unlock a new playstyle. So if you want this playstyle and you want to main her as like a main DPS, then yeah, go for it. If you're not planning to do that, then I would just say it's probably not worth it. C6 is just for you to be able to use Furina by herself. You know, you're going to be doing damage, her on field, able to heal too, so you don't even need a healer at this point, which is very, very good if you want to play her as a main DPS. If you don't plan to do that, then it's pretty much just going to be useless because you're not going to be auto attacking and all the benefits are just not going to be, you know, used. So C2 good or not, it just depends on whether you want it or not, to be honest. If you want to play her as a main DPS, then obviously it's necessary. It's not only good. If you don't plan to, then it's just useless. So it's either necessary or useless depending on what you want. Alright, so now moving on to the final conclusion of this video. How should you whale on Furina? Weapon, constellations, or anything like that? I would say definitely constellations all the way to C4. So you'd want to go C1, C2, even C3 and C4. That's like the path to whale. C1 is just more extra damage. C2, more HP, which is more damage. C3 also more damage. And then C4 is just more energy, which is pretty good. After C4, you can go for a weapon because as I said, at C4, you're not going to have energy problems anymore. So her weapon's value is going to increase a lot at this point, and it's probably going to be much better than like other weapons. So at this point, you might go for a weapon if you still want to whale after C4. After that, you probably just want to go for C5 because it's going to be giving you more damage. It's going to increase the level of your elemental skill. It's probably going to result in more damage than weapon refinements. Then after that, again, it depends on whether you want C6 or not, as I explained before. If you want to play her as a main DPS, then obviously you could go C6. If you don't want to, then maybe go for weapon refinements, even though I definitely don't really recommend them. It's just completely a waste, especially because you have Beiju's weapon with her in the banner. So it's going to be long going for weapons refinements. You can have a few extra donuts in there. But yeah, to repeat, it's just constellations all the way to C4, then get the weapon, then C5, then either C6 or R5. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel. See you guys in a bit. Goodbye.